right? So before we actually get to the clips, I want to ask you guys these things, just so you're looking at what the strengths and weaknesses are. I know there's probably a lot of them, right? But I'm gonna ask JT first. If you got two strengths of this defense, what would they be? This coverage. I'm sorry, this coverage.
Um, just in general, when you're pattern matching, inherently that's supposed to mean that the player that is in the best position to pick up a route is the one that's going to cover it. Whoever has the best leverage. That's not always the case, but that's the general idea. So I would put that in the strength column because there are, as we'll see, there are ways that you can kind of manipulate this a bit. And another strength in this case is for what we're going to show, the variant that we're going to show, when you have 4 verts out of a 2x2 set, you're actually getting 5 deep instead of 4. So those would be my 2 strengths. 2 weaknesses are the.
Oh, don't go to the weaknesses yet. I want to hear. I'm going to keep calling him Suge. I don't know if that's disrespectful to our listeners in here.
That's who I am. That's who I am. I'm okay with that.
All right, Suge. Let me hear your 2 strengths first.
You kind of the first one I kind of recognize was the indecision that you give the quarterback and the receivers that helps with fast throws that are hard to cover and versus talent that can really hurt you. You give them that indecision. They're not really sure about where you're going to be or where that route's going to end up. That I see that as a strength. And also the flexibility to play sound on the back end and gives you the ability to run to be run focused and on the quarterback.
Who got dogs? That's you, Suge? That's you, Suge? Your dog tied up somewhere? Who that?
No, my dog's too old for that. He knocked out on the bed right now, bro. Anyway, I just kind of the indecision that you give the quarterback and the receivers about actually what they're going to get, so it eliminates those fast throws and those easy tosses that can really hurt you. And then the flexibility to play sound on the back end that gives the front the ability to kind of run focus and the possibility to get more pressure on the quarterback because of box numbers.
Okay. Yes. So that's going to be interesting to be able to talk about that because of how you looks like whether or not, which we'll show you guys, right? Whether you got 8 in a box or do you not, and how you make that look to try to deceive the quarterback a little bit. Okay, JT, now you can tell me what your weaknesses are, your 2 weaknesses.
Yeah. Trips is a problem. It doesn't always have to be a problem. I'm not saying just because you're getting trips, like now you can't cover anything. But the 2 things that I thought about was 3 receivers to the field, because it just kind of messes up your spacing, especially since now your number 2 receiver is going to be farther out. So that overhang, if you're telling him the apex, if you were counting on him as a box defender, he's probably not a box defender anymore because now he's way wide. Right. And then the other problem that you have is, and which we saw a lot at our level, was when receivers start to oversplit. And Tennessee and Josh Heupel like to do this, where they will take, they will stack 2 receivers behind each other like this, and then put them on the numbers. And then it's like, okay, so where do you tell that overhand to stand now? Is he gonna? Do you want him out there with those receivers, or do you want him in the box? And they're gonna have to. You have to make that decision. You can't play both anymore. Either he's gonna help or he's not. Either he's gonna help with the run or he's not gonna help with the run. And they want you to declare, because if you're gonna leave the corner out there with 2 receivers stacked up, and you got a quarterback that can make that throw and screens all day. Jalen Hyatt is still out there probably running for 55-yard touchdowns off of some bubble routes and smoke screens. So those are problems that are that you can run into. There are solutions, but just there are things you have to think about because they will happen to you.
Okay. All right. What about you? Sure.
Again, I like that JT goes to the X's and O's, and I can talk kind of philosophy like the complexity it requires. It's complex, so it requires a high level talent, high level coaching, high level of consistency. And of course, all those things on the high school level and the college level are highly regulated. Um, and then kind of related to that point, communication breakdowns is like we were kind of discussing in the pre-show stuff. Communication breakdowns, selfish choices about any piece of the puzzle, or a failure to move the quarterback by the front, especially talented quarterbacks. That's usually detrimental to anything that you're trying to do on that back end. And that's where you've seen a lot of those just wide open catches and guys go for days, that kind of thing. So it's highly complex, so you got to be on point. And if anything breaks down in the mix, somebody's usually standing naked wide open.
All right. All right. It's good. Appreciate you guys' input on that. So let's go ahead and put up the slide, JT, of what it actually looks like from just a base alignment.
Oh, look, we have a wild Ryan Fowler has appeared.
And he's upright. He's straight, man. He's straight. Well, welcome in, brother. You're free to join in on this conversation.
No,
if you
no,
want
I'm
to
listen.
as
This
well.
is like
Okay.
football 101. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes, and I
Okay.
apologize. The dog was on me. Okay, I got.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no wonder I couldn't hear him.
Yeah, it was right.
Yeah, well, yeah, I have witnessed a fight over here, and I just hope Alabama's linebackers will have this alpha dog mentality that I just witnessed like 3 minutes ago. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys, man. I'm taking notes, man. You guys, I'm here as long as you need me. Just don't rush.
All right. Thank you. So going into this, I'm going to ask Coach Shug to kind of talk just real quick, high level. When you look at this and you're saying match 3, you're trying to explain this to a kid right now. What are you talking about alignment? Just real quick, and what a simple, if I can say, concept that you're trying to get out of this coverage.
Okay. Well, first of all, I will absolutely declare that it's way beyond anything that I've been capable of doing on my level.
All right.
I understand it. I know it. But again, what I would be telling kids is you have to study enough, work hard enough, be dedicated enough to know when you need to move over a foot to the left, back up 3 feet to the back, or move up a step to put yourself in the best position to be able to complement whatever our film study has shown us for this week. You need to make sure that you're capable of putting yourself in the optimal position to be able to match the routes and help your teammates based off of what we're expecting.
All right, excellent, and I love that the used the word match. So JT, to you, let's start with the corners. Go into your R and your S. I see you have with the drops and the overs and all this kind of stuff. Can you give a simple breakdown of what they're looking, what they're reading initially before the routes even come? So you have it on the playbook, and it says what for the C and what for the S, and so forth.
Yeah. So this is actually just a screenshot of what they usually would get, and I try to keep it super simple, and then we drill into the details over camp or spring ball as it happens. So the corners, I'm telling, look, you have deep third, and I ask them how many of them have taken any kind of math. All their hands should go up since they're still in school. They should have taken some kind of math, and they should be able to kind of roughly divide the field into 3 parts. Usually I just kind of tell them, like, look, you have from sideline to hash, safety has from hash to hash, and then the other corner has the other sideline to hash. So there you go, 3 parts. You have to be, and then it's really the hardest part of teaching young high school players is that, like, just because you are in between the sideline and the hash doesn't mean that you're actually covering all of it. You need to be like in the middle of that landmark, right? So that's why I tell them deep third over 2-1, because if you get 2 verticals, the easy throw is to the inside receiver. You want to make them throw outside. So I tell them key number 2, you're playing deep third over 2-1. And then when we get to the overhangs in this diagram, the S and the R, we learn the acronym MCD, match, carry, deliver. And that is 3 directions for them. Match means if number 2 goes outside, you need to match him. You got to run with him. You got to go. When I say match, that means if it's a out and up, like a wheel, that's yours. So that's what we mean by match if he goes out. Carry means you need to carry him all the way to the end zone if he wants to run deep. And deliver means if he goes inside, you need to deliver him to the linebacker, because the linebacker is going to be working out towards you. So we learn MCD, where that which directions each one of those goes, and then we tell them how to cover number 2. And then the free safety, we kind of just tell them, hey, get in the middle of the field, and then look at those receivers and look at those matchups. Who do you think you need to help is really what that boils down to. Is like, look, if our R is not really that fast and they put the fast guy over there, go, lean that way, help him. Don't leave your team hanging out to dry. But really it's stay in the middle of the field.
Okay. So now that's very high level and simple, because this can get complicated. And we didn't even talk about linebackers and what they gotta.
And we've got some very good questions coming in too. So don't let me forget to get to those.
Okay. So we'll get to those just immediately after we kind of go through this. So pre-show, we were kind of talking about how this, and you kind of mentioned it. So maybe you can just draw up let's just draw it up. 4 verticals. I think that's the easiest one to kind of speak on, especially since you just kind of talked about the deals. If you got your markers, right? 4 verticals meaning all go. So essentially, it would turn into a cover 1 principle, right? With the free safety in the middle. So think about what JT said. That is actually his carry by the S and the R. The corners will be going back, right? All right. I hope everybody can see that. That's pretty simple. So the next thing, if you can erase that, the next thing I want you to do is, and I know you got some diagrams on this, but have your 2s run underneath crossers or something,
like
shallow.
Mesh.
Yeah, like a mesh, right? And doesn't matter what you do with the ones, they can go up the field somewhere. Point is, I want them to see the difference in what the R's have to do. So now you're talking about your deliver, right?
Yep. Yeah. So in this case now, you are going to deliver to the linebacker. So once you kind of have this pass off here, number 2 is going to keep running. He's going to pass him off to the mic, and the same thing's happening over here, right? So you got these pass offs, and then as we're passing these across, the S is going to end up taking this one. The R will end up taking this one from the other side of the field, and then we'll have to handle whatever the hell number 1s are doing on the outside here.
Yep. So, Shug, when you're talking about this, I'm assuming you do run side in your defenses. You've probably run some type of cover 3, right? So we're talking about a match 3. But have you run just 3 deep? I don't know what you would have called it, but did you run a true 3 zone?
We just call it cloud. Yeah. Well, I've never been a fan of the true cover 3 zone, just because it's
too many gaps, too many holes.
Exactly. And again, on getting what JT mentioned it earlier, getting kids to understand spacing and how much space they actually have to be responsible for in a zone, and not just stand in the spot. Coach, I went to the spot. I'm in my zone, but
you dropped to the cone and just stood there.
yeah, and the man's 8 yards away from you. You got to actually get to the man. So, but yes, we have a 3D concept, but it's mostly it's a hybrid of what we're talking about. We match on the outsides. I don't ask my linebackers to do any covering. We don't drop. We go pressure, and then we purposefully look for Sams and Rovers that can handle themselves with those number twos, and we go try to make the quarterback do something he doesn't want to do before he has time to get us beat. So in that case, yes, those the corners are running, staying with those verticals. The free safety has to make a decision, like JT said. He has to make a decision who he's going to help, who's the most dangerous guy, who's the guy that they like to throw it to, that kind of thing. He's supposed to be our smartest guy back there, knowing where everybody is. Mike and Will puts us in a position of going 6-on-5, and unless the running back scats, we should put pressure on the quarterback. And Sam and Rover has to. We try to discourage those kind of crossers, but with rules nowadays, they love the offense.
I like your choice of words there. Discourage. I like that. Okay, so I'm going to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I want to make sure, just because we have to remember, okay, that when some of our viewers and listeners, are very new at this, or elementary. So you said a word that I feel like we might need to discuss, not now, later, but he said when a running back scats. So someone might be thinking, what the hell does that mean? Okay, so we probably need to make sure we clarify that at some point in time. Okay, go ahead and finish your thought. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Okay. No. I got you. So again, we're talking about Alabama. The basis of our conversation is about what Alabama will do. On the high school level, we're a little bit different. Of course, their caliber of player that Coach Womack's going to have is a whole lot different. But at the same time, again, we're hoping to be able to run with those number ones, discourage those number twos, and get to the quarterback with Mike and Will before he's able to find one of those crossers escaping and getting open.
Okay. Excellent. Great points, fellas. Okay, so JT, if you can, why don't you pick one of your questions now that you think we might need to get to?
Okay. So the first one is from Steve McDaniel. George, from your expert knowledge, what do you believe will be the largest issues for all those freshman cornerbacks in the Kane Womack 4-2-5 defense?
It is definitely going to be, great question, Stephen. Thank you for asking. This is going to be when you're outside and you're playing, in particularly in this defense, you got to know when you got to go all the way up. And we had this in a pre-show a little bit, right, JT, when those number ones run digs. So in this coverage. So you got to have the wits and the wherewithal, like JT says, right? We're going deep third. That's the simple piece, but you also got to play on the fly that if that guy goes in, now we're going to ask you to cover this guy, but you might get something else out here as well. So there's also a communication piece and a trust piece with what will be Huskies and what was the other term?
Sting.
The Huskies and the Stings, where you got to know who's going to run up with that other guy, or is he going to run up, or is he not, or is you going to pass this off into the other piece? So there is a lot of complexity to this. You've heard both of the guys saying that. Natural skills, being able to cover, right? The young guys, the film we've seen him covering very well. But when now you got to read on the fly, and do I let this guy go? One split second at this level could end up being a touchdown if you're wrong or you hesitate, right? So I think that's going to be difficult for younger guys to do in coverages like this, right? Okay. Hopefully I answered that.
I'll touch on. Let me extend your point, George.
Yep.
The transition and being a high school guy. We're talking about young corners. In high school, he was so good he could do that without thinking, without having to worry about much. He could make up ground and still cover that guy and not get beat. And now he's playing against SEC caliber guys that in a hiccup they can get away from him real fast, and it can look real bad real fast. And like you said, they have to figure that out in a hurry, how to do it the right way.
And I'll add this because we talked about communication, but I think communication is one of the things that the younger the player is, the less likely they are to do it. And one of my favorite quotes is communication is the worst form of communication is thinking that it actually happened. So just because you're saying words doesn't mean that you've actually communicated. So what I drew up here was just a simple smash concept. And I know because I've heard you say it many times during practice, right? And I'm thinking of two types of players. There's the one type of player that's like, look, I got deep third, so I'm getting back. That's great. And then the other part of that is you got the Antonio Langhams. It's just like, look, I'm just going to sit on the route. And then they throw it over your head because you went back here. So that kind of sucks. But you also have to be telling this guy right here, out, right? And I don't know how many times you were yelling at our corners to tell him to get out here to cover this hitch, because naturally what he's going to want to do, what his rules tell him to do, is he's supposed to run with this corner route. And now both of you guys are sinking on this corner route and you leave the hitch wide open, which at least that's the one throw. Like if you're just going to give up a throw, that's the one throw you want to give up. But this is D1 high level football now. That guy catching a 5-yard hitch with 10 yards of space could be lethal.
Very dangerous.
Right? You know, in high school, it's like, yeah, just go tackle him. We're good. But Xavier Worthy catches that. He's got 4.2 speed. He's leaving you.
That's right. And so I want to make this one point where maybe you can find another question. But if you can draw a goal by number one and then, some kind more like a corner by number two, right? So when if for any of y'all that have kind of heard me talk about a game where I felt I was most disrespected and I couldn't get it right, this was one of the plays that we kept getting. And we were playing this match 3 principle. So if you remember what JT was talking about before, the corner's already gone, and here I am as a safety, and I got to cover this number 2 guy. So first of all, it was a bandit, or not the bandit, the husky, right? So now I'm thinking if that guy goes vertical, I got to take him. But if he runs this corner route, I have that as well. But if he now runs a deep dig, right, JT, he goes inside, I got that one too. So you name whatever slot receiver you want that's wiggling and jiggling, and you're not totally right with all these routes because he could stop. He could just run a curl. He could do any kind of stuff. Think of Tyreek Hill in the pros.
My favorite route. And I'll just draw it up because my favorite route as a number 2 receiver, we used to run it at Drake all the time. My favorite route as a outside receiver was a comeback.
Yep.
But my favorite route was a post. We called it a post out, which you think looks like this. But that's not the way we ran it. We would run in the post. And if I didn't think I could beat you to the post, I was supposed to stop and retrace my steps and come back this way. And it was open all the time because this dude
time.
is hauling ass trying to get on top of you, and you just stop and retrace your steps and come back this way.
Yeah. So, I wanted to make sure I point this out because I know we're talking a lot bit about this stuff, but it is super hard on these guys. So when we're talking about I know we're talking about corners, but these safeties got to be dogs too, because the next piece, I'll get off on the coverage, and I'm going to ask the next piece. But is there another question first, JT? Because I want to get.
Yeah, we're going to hold on to Kelly's question because that's going to be for later on in the show. But Caleb Simmons asks, he says, in our 4-2-5 blue coverage, if I'm the OLB and the back is to my side, I carry 2 until the back threatens the flat. At that point, I pass off number 2 to the safety. Is that close to what y'all do? And at least for me in my defense, it's game plan dependent because, like, if I'm not worried about this back, I kind of want you to throw behind the line of scrimmage. But yeah, like we were playing St. Thomas, that guy was going to Vanderbilt. So I would rather leave this guy open.
Good as hell.
Yeah, it just depends. Yeah, so that was one of the questions when I want to talk about how hard this is, because let me give you the NFL version, which is definitely closer to the what you're going to see at Bama, and why your linebackers have to be able to run as well. So if you draw number 2 going vertical, you still had the Sam running up with them in the league. Now the Mike backer, if that 3 ran a flare or out, if he went out on a flare, the Mike is gonna go. He's gotta go. Right, and this is how we ran it in the league. So he could. I think
this is what Alabama was trying to do with Pete Golding, except that never happened.
That's right. So, but you just have the issues, and what he's talking about, this communication. That's the simple part. But if number 2 goes under, and 3 runs the same route, now you're going to pass them. Right? So there's talking in, out, out. Now you're going to switch. It's easy on both guys. So that's how you can see guys getting wide open. You're going, man, who was supposed to have him or whatnot? You might not.
Because now you can start messing with people, right? Because once you figure out these rules where they're going to pass them off, and you get, something like this.
They start running up. They do all kinds of stuff.
He's going to try to drag you out this way. Safety's got to make a decision, and the back's going out this way. You better make a decision quickly and decide who's going to. Because if one of these guys gets confused, right? If they both take this guy because they weren't sure, the back's open. Or
right.
If they're not sure and they both end up trying to jump on this guy.
So you're reading your stem routes, the stem of it too, right? And we've kind of talked about it, because that same way he just drew that up could turn into the corner route that I was just talking about. But anyway, I don't want to harp on that. So I want to get into the pieces of the run fits now quickly, I guess, on this is now who's it the hardest on? The 2 linebackers in the run fits, the 2 down safeties. But what do you Shug, how do you see?
Well, you just touched on a point that makes it difficult to be honest, for everybody, especially if, like JT said, they do it well. If receivers stem well and disguise their routes, really sell what they're doing, and it looks like something for a beat or 2, and your eyes have to stay on them. By the time you recognize that now it's run, and I've got to go fit whichever gap that I'm supposed to fit wherever my route took me, and I come down to fit it. You're talking about, in high school, 5 or 6 yards, in college, maybe 3 or 4 yards. But at the same time, those guys will turn 3 or 4 yards, 3 or 4 yards, 3 or 4 yards, and beat you to death. And like the stems and the routes that look like they're finished routes, but they're really to distract you. And next thing you know, the running back, because they've got 5-on-4, their block. They got a good solid double team. Got an edge guy to press, and that back hits B gap hard. I mean, if the Mike is looking at that crosser that JT drew up earlier, and it could go for a lot, and so that the corner and the free and the other corner, them figuring out that, oh no, they're just running and stalking. It's a run, and now it's a 7-yard game. And any as defensive guys, we hate patient offensive coordinators. So if he's patient and he'll take that 4-5 yard gain over and over and over again and just stay patient, you hate that. I want the guy that, we got to throw the go route. We got to throw, that kind of thing. We need to throw it to the flat. We've been running. We haven't thrown the. So to answer your question or to kind of comment on it is those run fits are very, very difficult for those guys because, again, the guy that was a All-American defensive back that's now the head coach is telling you, hey, you better cover that guy because he's going to, he's going to run past you. And then when they run off the edge because the end can't get there and Sam has his head turned, you're in trouble. I mean, again, like I said, and if the offensive coordinator is patient, it makes it really, really hard. And when you're playing in a league like the SEC, I mean, you have to, like Ryan was alluding to earlier, if your Mike and Will aren't dogs, you're in trouble, brother.
JT, you had a comment you're about to make?
Yeah, because Coach Scott used to say this all the time. 4 plus 4 is 8. Plus 4 equals first down. So all they're trying to do is get 4 yards of play
all night,
and that's an unstoppable offense, right? So, yeah. But to answer the original question, I think it's the free safety. Well, I don't know. I think it's the free safety because of how much conflict these guys are in. Especially when you start getting these zone read teams where like this guy's just gonna bubble, trying to drag him out, and then in this case, bubble this way, read option, or whatever, inside zone, and they're hitting right here off the tackle, and you telling them, hey, you got to go get the bubble because this guy's taking off or whatever. So I guess maybe I'll change my answer. The overhangs are going to be in conflict all the time, and they've got to figure that out. And then I think from there, it's the free safety who to me in this. If you're going to have a single high safety, that dude better be the best athlete on the field because he's got to make everybody right. So if this guy leaves and goes with the bubble and the ball ends up bouncing out here, he's got to come down here and get it. And if you don't have a guy who's going to come from off the table to go make a stop and less than 4 yards, you're gonna have some real problems.
It'll be a long day. And what we haven't shown and we're not going to show is basically what he said too. That if maybe that's part 2, Shug, that you're talking about, is if you do any kind of line stunts up front, if the P goes inside and the bounce, and then you got this bubble, and where does the wheel go? Versus
if the end of the rush don't set the edge, you're dead.
So it's very, very complex.
It's bad.
So I guess what I want everyone to take from this is a hard-ass defense to try to play. It can be very, very effective if you practice on it enough. You can disguise it enough or not be so predictable with it, because it can be really effective. But if you're not in tune, man, it could get ugly, bad, or you could have a big play show up, and you might not know whose fault it is just by us watching on TV or at the game.
That's facts, Caleb. Caleb says 100% patient offensive coordinators are tough to defend. Just a good thing there's not that many of them. And he's so right.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Okay. Were you about to say something, Shug, before we
No.
Was
I was just saying your point about um you know Kane is came into a situation where, uh, fortunately for him, I mentioned those 3 points: high level coaching, high level talent players, and high level of consistency. He's coming to a situation where, fortunately, he gets to borrow a little consistency. He has the talented players, but the consistency comes because the guys already know the match system. You're not having to teach it, so he may be able to take advantage of that. The high level talent, of course, Alabama every year is going to get some of the best players in the country, and they're going to be smart, hard work, and then the high level coaching. They're always going to get the best coaches in the country there. So they have the tools to be able to put it together. And like I said, uh, one of the biggest factors, and I know you'll move on, is the borrowed consistency. Is meaning, it's only happened at a few places over the last 20 years, and Nick Saban has been involved with most of them. Is that discipline, the consistency, don't change. The coaches understand, and kids have to be indoctrinated and steeped in it for a large amount of time in order to have high levels of success. Like I said, I'll be over the last 4 or 5 years when Alabama has lost games and struggled, it was because we weren't able to really get enough pressure fast enough up front. We struggled with third down, and we all know how third down. We struggled with third down, not able to get that pressure, and it put that the back end in a bind, and those plays really hurt. And um, like you're talking about that consistency and being able to put this complicated system into effect.